Hello everyone, welcome to GS Score. My name is Abhishek Saxena and today we are going to take up certain multiple choice questions for the preliminary examination from the point of view of governance. So while doing these questions, it is pertinent for us to remember that questions can be directly from the news or it can be something related to news. So let's quickly get to the very first question of this particular session. So the question says, which of the following organizations conduct the household consumer spending survey? So while multiple organizations carry out certain surveys on behalf of the government, Niti Aayog comes up with its own set of reports, so does RBI and so does the NSSO and the National Development Council. So while National Development Council is an erstwhile institution, so this can be eliminated from the set of choices at the outset. So we'll be remaining with the three choices, right? So while Niti Aayog does it in the realm of government, various surveys, reports, indices, etc., it is less likely that it conducts something related to household. However, we should not rule out the option as yet. If we look at option number D, RBI, we can safely rule it out because RBI is responsible for the monetary policy and consumer spending is something which does not directly link to the monetary policy. However, yes, RBI does take into account the various figures for inflation. So that is something which might be very loosely connected, but still a far-fetched opportunity considering we have two better options to look at. Okay, so the correct answer for this particular question is A, National Sample Survey Office. Okay, so this particular survey is conducted every 5 years. All right, and it is something which is one of the very core functions of NSSO to conduct such surveys, right? So Niti Aayog is again a highly improbable option. Also, a certain amount of factual information is needed, as in what this survey is all about, right? So that is something to note. Quickly moving on to the next question. So it says, consider the following statements regarding broadcast seva portal. So it is something related to broadcast, right? That means something related to the mass media, right? So that is the loose understanding which one gets. Now let us look at the statements. It is an online portal solution for speedy filing and processing of application for various kinds of licenses, permissions and payment of fees. When we have talked about portal, it is clearly linked to something which is online, okay? And just like we have passport seva, other things, so this statement seems correct. Next, it has been jointly developed by NIC and TCS Limited. Okay. Well, that is something which is a fact. Usually, all such government services do fall in the kitty of NIC, and it can be an easy trap that it must be NIC only. But while we have NIC and a private company performing almost similar functions, so why the two are collaborating? So that should raise a red flag. So this statement seems suspicious. And if we know that the broadcast, this particular broadcast seva portal is developed by agencies like broadcast, engineering, consultants, India Limited, which is a mini Ratna PSU, and TCS, right? Then we can safely rule out this particular option. So that leaves us with the very first statement that is correct, and we need to find the statement which is correct. So do pay attention to the keyword here, right? So the correct option would be option A. Option A. Let us move to the next question. It says, consider the following statements regarding EDAR portal recently seen in news. So in questions like this, one should be very meticulous, because only the abbreviation sort of a thing is given and no full form. So if you know, you know. Otherwise, don't take risk if the statements are also completely unrelated and you cannot identify with the set of statements. Let us look at the statements now. It is an integrated data and instant information provisioning portal on road accidents. Well, this is a correct statement. Next, it is an extension of integrated road accident database and will provide geotagging of exact accident spots along with the site map. This statement is also correct, right? So that makes option C as the correct option. But this is a highly factual question in nature. So if you have read the current affairs regarding this, you can answer this. Otherwise, this might be a gamble, right? Basically, the idea was to identify certain accident hotspots and take counter measures. So often when we read factual information, we should know about the idea that why such a thing is coming up at the first place. So that helps us better retain that information and can really help us in marking the right option. Next question. With reference to the recently launched Seema Darshan Project, consider the following statements. The project has been launched for the purpose of tourism in the border areas of Northeast India. Okay. Well, the idea is tourism, Seema Darshan, correct, but the area in question is something which is again suspicious. Northeast frontier, any which way, is a very remote area, right, vis-a-vis the other borders of India. Okay, so this idea has been initiated for states like Gujarat, Punjab, etc. So that statement is incorrect on the factual ground that it is for Northeast India. Next statement. It is a joint initiative of BRO under Ministry of Defence and Indian Army. Well, this particular statement is also incorrect, as it is the initiative of the Tourism Department of the state of Gujarat and BSF. So we should remember the forces guarding borders. So while BSF is there for Pakistan and Bangladesh, we have ITBP which guards the China frontier, and so are the other forces vis-a-vis Nepal, Bhutan and other countries. So it is not Indian Army everywhere. Army is there on the line of control and the LAC on selected basis, right? Also in certain areas BSF serves under the command of the army on the LAC, right? So LOC, I beg your pardon. So it is something to note that which force guards which place, and such projects come under which location and cover which borders. So that makes both the statements as incorrect. So the correct option for us to mark would be option number D, D for Denmark. Moving on to the next question. Government of India recently undertook the Ashwasan campaign. Well, we need to know about what this Ashwasan campaign is all about. So we have 4 set of statements. Let us look at each statement. Address the acute shortage of certain antiretroviral drugs in antiretroviral therapy centers. Second statement, identify and rehabilitate persons engaged in begging. Detect instances of tuberculosis among tribal population. So we had mission TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan. So this statement can be eliminated by the knowledge of the TB Mukt Bharat. Identify children that have been orphaned, abandoned, or have lost a parent during the COVID campaign, during the COVID pandemic. So clearly this Ashwasan campaign was not something which was there. Okay, so this particular question is a bit confusing in that sense, because it is about providing healing touch, it is about providing some sort of a relief. Okay, so if we know the facts, then we can answer this particular question. Okay, so basically if we look at the factual aspects, it is indeed for TB, and I deliberately marked it that how even a TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan can have subparts, right? And this Ashwasan campaign basically comes under the ambit of a tribal TB initiative. Okay, basically the idea is for specifically tribals. So at times the existing macro scheme can obscure the fine reality. So for tribal population it is there, and that was the catch, right? Because COVID pandemic has somewhat passed, right? And with regards to beggars and other homeless people, other initiatives are being going on. So it is very essential that you have the factual knowledge of in what context this particular campaign was related. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements regarding the Rashtriya Vayoshri Yojana are correct? So we keep finding multiple schemes, policies, programs in the news, right? So at times the question is about the news item in toto, or at times around it. Okay, so we need to examine this particular set of statements. It is a scheme for providing physical aids and assisted living devices only to those senior citizens belonging to the BPL category. Well, that is correct. It is something related to senior citizens. Okay, it says next statement, 30% of the beneficiaries in each district shall be women. Yes, that is also correct. So we need to know the postulates of the scheme. The devices are provided at doorstep only for the senior citizens aged 80 years or more. Well, that is a conventional practice. Even banks provide doorstep services, largely to disabled and to senior citizens above the age of 80. Till 80, a lot of schemes do provide a lot of benefits, but a physical presence is needed unless it is not possible for the warrant of other reasons. So all these three statements seem correct, and so the correct option would be option D. Option D. Right? Moving on to the next question. Who among the following are prohibited to receive the foreign contributions under FCRA? So FCRA has been in news and continues to be in news for the past few years because of the foreign funding. NGOs, so recently a lot of licenses of NGOs for foreign funding was also cancelled, including some big NGOs, right? So this act and its dimensions are important. So there might be a current affair which focus on only one dimension, but considering the importance of the act and its repeated appearance in the news, should not divert our attention and should basically encourage us to look at various dimensions, some which are in news and some which are not in news as well, right? So let us look at the statements, and even if we do not know, let us analyze it from the point of view of logic. Candidates for election. So can a sovereign democratic country like India allow foreign funding of its election candidates so that they will serve a vested interest of some agency or an individual or a country outside borders? Highly unlikely. Government servants. It is well known that government servants are not allowed to receive the contribution of funding from such sources. So this can be again marked incorrect. Members of any legislature, the same logic flows here, right? Same logic goes for the political parties. Now this one is tricky. This particular option is tricky in the sense that there are media broadcast companies, for example BBC Hindi, etc., which work out of India and they do receive certain foreign contributions, but do they receive under FCRA, or a holding company needs to be set up in India, or some other mechanism is there, right? Even if we obscure this particular option and if we are suspicious about 5, we have option number 4 which we know conclusively, and any option excluding 5 is this, but we know that 4 is not allowed. So we are left with this and this option, C and D, and in both 5 is mentioned. So by corollary we would assume that even 5 is not allowed. So the correct option would be option number D. Option D. Right? Moving on to the next question. It says, consider the following statements. Under the new semiconductor policy, the government will provide up to 50% of what project cost for 2 semiconductor and 2 display fabrication units. Well, that is correct. It was very much in news. CDAC, Center for Development of Advanced Computing, is the nodal agency for implementation of India Semiconductor Mission. Okay, so basically if we look at India Semiconductor Mission, it has been set up as an independent business division of Digital India Corporation. Okay, rather CDAC is the nodal agency for the design linked initiative scheme. So we should know this factual clarity that this SEED Act is for design linked incentive scheme and not for this semiconductor thing, right? So once we know that, we can safely mark as this option incorrect. So in this case, we need to find the correct ones. The correct option would be option A, one only. Moving on to the next question. For the purpose of women's safety, Delhi Police has organized an initiative to train girls, working women and housewives by their special police unit. Which of the following is the name of this particular initiative? Well, this was very much in news. So Nirbhaya was a fund, right? And this initiative was by the Delhi Police Special Police Unit for Women and Children, that is SPUWAC, and this was called as Sashakti, right? So women related issues continue to dominate the UPSC landscape, and we should know about all such initiatives. Moving on to the next question. Again, we have a set of two statements, and it is about these CAPFs. Both administrative and operational control of CAPFs rest with the Ministry of Home Affairs. Well, that is not entirely correct, okay, because the idea is that there are various central armed police forces such as CISF, ITBP, BSF, even Assam Rifles. So here when we say control of central armed police forces, for majority of them rest with the Ministry of Home Affairs. It is the Assam Rifles which is under the administrative control of MHA, that is Ministry of Home Affairs, but the operational control lies with Ministry of Defence. So this fine nuance is essential to mark this statement as incorrect. Statement number 2. The CAPF e-Awas portal aims to administer the allotment of CAPF residential accommodation to the eligible personnel of all CAPF. That is correct. So this e-Awas portal was in news. And see how the question has been framed in and around not just the e-Awas portal but a statement relating to the very fundamental knowledge about the central armed police forces is interwoven into this particular question, which makes this question somewhat tricky. So we have second statement as the correct statement and the first statement, that is the incorrect statement. So we need to find the correct statement. The answer would be B, right? So through these set of questions, my endeavor was to demonstrate that how at times facts plus a little interlinkage can help you crack the questions better and in a far more accurate manner. So that's all. Thank you.